And we're back to another episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I'm your host, Arthur Lee. In today's episode, I've titled it AI Disruption. Is it real? And what you need to know. Now, we're going to be joined with a very special guest who worked in the space for a long time. Not one of the guys who jumped on the bandwagon just because ChatGPT blew up. But in this episode, we will deep dive in the world of AI, its profound impact on various industries, and we're going to explore how AI is actually revolutionizing how we live and work and interact with technology. Now, I've got a special guest. His name is Kristof Szabo, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and he has created multiple value propositions through different AI companies. And he's here joining us to share his perspective on how he looks at the technology, how he looks at solving problems with this technology, and not just creating a Me Too product that uses some open source code from someone else to create another project that really doesn't deliver any value. So I'm very excited and pleased to have him on here because we'll be talking from the perspective of actually using technology not to replace human beings, but actually how to use it to solve businesses' problems. So the market has been flooded with AI opportunities. And if you're somebody who's looking at how to solve problems using AI, you'll get a lot of value from the show. Enjoy. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Startup Voyage. And in this episode, we talk about AI disruption. Is it real and what do you need to know? We deep dive into artificial intelligence, its profound impact that it's had on various industries. We explore how AI is revolutionizing the way we live, work, and interact with technology. From self-driving cars to virtual assistants, AI is reshaping our society, bringing both opportunities and challenges. And today, I've got a special guest, Kristof Szabo, and he is Forbes 30 under 30 serial entrepreneur, AI video generation expert who loves to talk about ChatGPT, deepfakes, which I love to talk about too, generative AI generative content, and artificial intelligence. He's the co-founder of Upsum.io, looking to transform overwhelming the understanding of taking novels, research reports, or any text in any language, and swiftly distilling the essence and meaning, extracting key takeaways in mere seconds. Also, he's a founder of We Cut Video, and he's also the CEO and co-founder of Colossian, if I said that right, where you can create videos and AI actors much cheaper and much faster than the traditional studio recordings or video software. So welcome to the podcast, Kristof. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I will take from that list.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we will do that, and we'll do that while we're talking, I think.
Okay.
Just to extend.
Well, my first question is, yeah, for you as a serial entrepreneur, you obviously are in the focus of AI and created multiple companies to focus on different, I guess, value propositions. Maybe you can talk through your transition into the space and, why do you feel of building so many different companies at the same time?
Cool. Yeah. I started with AI a long time ago, and I don't have a educational background, at least in technology, but I started technology companies, and even before that, video companies. So I have a history in video, and then I have a shorter history in tech in general. And I think it was about 8-9 years ago that we started a video recording, video editing company with my friend. And after that, in 2018, I had the idea to look into detection of fake content. And the original idea came from deepfakes. It was in the summer of 2018 that these kind of Nicolas Cage face swap videos appeared. And then I had the idea of building something that would detect this on an algorithmic way with some software that we can develop with AI. So that's when it all started. And since then, I've been more or less in it, working with it, developing it, selling it, and yeah, now the hype train started up roughly 6 months ago around OpenAI and all the AI that's driving the stock market and my LinkedIn feed. So yeah, it's quite an experience, and I'm happy to be in the middle of it. But sometimes it can get too much, too overwhelming.
Okay. So let's make it easy for the listeners to first talk about the definition of AI. From my understanding, the way I look at it, like there's three different purposes or categories of AI. We've got AI that then uplifts product applications. So they make the products better in some way using AI, or they improve a process, so process applications or insights applications. How do you then distinguish or define what AI is to the regular user?
It's kind of like saying, how do you define, anything from big data to blockchain? And I think even like blockchain would be the easiest to define for me at least. But starting from the beginning, I think of AI as a tool, as something that's an add-on to any service. AI is possible because we have enough computing power and we have enough data that is freely available, or some company, freely stealable from different sources online, to train models on, machine learning models. And not going into the tech because I'm not an expert on it, I really think about it as an AI as a tool, as something that we can use for something else, something to make things faster, processes more efficient. And in the end, whenever I see a new AI startup popping up, I always think about, it's cool, but what's the use case? What's really the use for people? Where is this going to generate value? And how valuable would it be for people to make their work easier or faster, more efficient, that it can actually capture that value and not just be a fancy new AI startup that does something with AI. That's why I also don't think about my projects and my startups from that perspective. I don't say that I'm an AI entrepreneur. I don't say that this is an AI startup. I think about always the use case and for whom is it valuable and who can capture that value that this tool is creating with the help of AI. So in short, I really, whenever think about AI, it's just a technology, it's just a tool. The important part is the use. How do you use it? What's the use case? What's the value behind it?
Okay. So what do you think is I know AI has really opened up ever since ChatGPT kind of went out there. And I guess after the fact, if you look at all the work that's been put into blockchain and crypto and massive processing of compute power, it's pretty much changed the whole industry to allow AI to finally emerge, because it's been around for some time. Is that correct?
100%. Yes. I mean, the idea of AI it's really older than IoT, older than big data, older than blockchain. It wasn't one specific date when 2008 the white paper came out for Bitcoin and then blockchain was born. But it was a longer process, and the term was, I think it's 50 years old, and it's almost as old as the internet. And people always read about, maybe not always, but like hundreds and hundreds of years thinking about the future robots and this kind of machine intelligence. Once Frankenstein and wakes up and has this kind of not a human but not a robot but something in between that thinks on its own, of course connected with the Turing test from Alan Turing, that he was working in the Second World War, so he has been long dead, but we already, at that time people were thinking about this sort of intelligence in connection with the different technologies and different ways to employ it for our own benefit. So it's very, very old indeed. I'm not a historian, but I know that it's older than me. It's maybe from the 20th century or even before.
Right. Well, what do you see then as the, there's a lot of noise already with VCs investing into companies that are, solving something with AI. What do you think what industries will be impacted the most, whether it be healthcare, law, manufacturing? What do you see the most impact?
I mean, there are, as you say, a lot of noise, and a lot of people, AI is going to change everything. AI is going to kill this. This tool is going to kill that. This new startup just killed ChatGPT. That kind of noise. That's really, I don't think it's needed. We should really focus on the utility, the use cases, how it's going to create value, how it's going to, obviously, it's going to kill some jobs. It's going to take over some things, going to make some things more efficient, from every industry I can think of. People were saying that in art and in creative businesses, it's going to take a longer time, but now we see, AI generated images and paintings and whatsoever. So it's going to have a role in every industry. But again, the question is, what's the utility? What's going to be the value? Because if you generate AI articles and people are going to read AI written blogs, it's not that valuable. There is still that human element, that, kind of thinking, that kind of, how we connect with the community, how we explain things to humans. I think there's still value in that. So I don't think I'm going to read AI generated novels or for learning, maybe for entertainment. And I see AI video as entertainment, AI games, that could be also very influential. But going back to your comment also on the VC side, we don't see that much money flowing in. Everybody's talking about it, but relatively, it's not like 10 times more money going into AI startups. It is a lot more AI startups also in Y Combinator, also in VC investments, but it's just not as much money as the hype. So there's a little difference between the two. So I would say it's more noise than it's. If you want, I will say it. There is an AI bubble that will sooner or later deflate or even pop. But I think it's good that people learn about it, people hear about it, people understand it. But the problem, for example, from my perspective, is I'm not going to differentiate my startup based on the fact that it's an AI startup. I don't go to a VC and say, I have an AI startup. No, I go there and say, I'm going to solve this problem for these markets. And that's where the value is created. So again, it's going to affect a lot of industries, but not to the extent that we imagine, I think.
Okay. Well, let's dive into something a little bit more specific on how AI is going to impact the industry, and let's talk through some of your companies and what you're solving and how AI can actually help out in that respect.
Yeah. Then I go a little bit back on what I said, on the detection side. We're working on that business for 2 years, and that's a perfect example. It was sexy, it was deep fakes, it was detection, it was saving the news industry, it was detecting fake videos and fake images that we see today popping up everywhere. There was no market, so that was, I think, bad timing. After 2 years, we realized, talking to newspapers, banks, and insurance companies, that there was just no need on the market. It was a very we had a very good pitch. It was a nice solution that we offered, but people just didn't see the problem. So we decided to switch and turn around and generate video content with AI. And we built a model that you have seen, the synthetic videos. It's called synthetic video, where humans are synthesized. Basically, you record an actor and then you train their face so that they can mimic the audio, essentially, and then move their mouth and synchronize their mouth to the audio. That's the model we built with Colossian. And I was with Colossian until last year, September. And after that, now we have also, I would say, Upsum being a kind of a pet project on just because, we saw the utility of AI for one specific segment, which was text, which was for researchers, for students, for anyone that works with larger amounts of text, to summarize it, to ask the document, essentially. Instead of pressing Control F and searching for keywords, you can just ask a question and chat with your document. Now we are also building on top of that a knowledge base functionality, where you can build a chatbot based on a lot of documents or based on a website. So it's sort of something that we saw as an easy thing to build, and that's create essentially value with the help of AI, because you're saving a lot of time. So that's something that we just sort of worked on, I would say, because of the hype. But meanwhile, in the last 6 months, we were really thinking about what's really valuable and what can we bring to this market that is using our knowledge, using our experiences, using our skills, using AI, but is useful and is going to create value. And now we are working on a project, again, in the video industry, whereby we are replacing the video editing process with just very simple chatting. So you will have an interface where you can chat with an assistant, and in the backend, we will edit the video with different solutions and algorithms that we have developed. So that's specifically what was something that I had for the last 8 to 9 years. I had a lot of hours spent on video editing, and hopefully we can solve that with AI, with the help of an AI assistant who will be able to edit your videos for you just based on your comments. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm busy with.
Okay. So going back to the deepfakes one, do you believe that there's opportunities then with, let's say, a user then uploads content that is deepfake? Do you think platforms, or it's the responsibility of platforms to then restrict those contents? I mean, that's the issue, that you can never tell what's real out there, right?
100%. It's not a technology or a business question. It's more like an ethical question. And there are statistics that say that in 2016, when it was the elections in 18, also in 16, they're already saying that fake content on Facebook was generating more hype than not fake news. So if you uploaded a picture from 5 years ago and the text that it happened yesterday, that got 10 times more attention. So that was sort of good for Facebook. So they didn't have that kind of internal motivation to change it, to do something about it. The news industry just didn't have the funds to do anything about it, and they were getting 99% of their pictures from trusted sources, so they didn't have that need, problem. So in the end, there wasn't a market for it. I think even today, the market is not there yet, but now there are just so much AI content that somewhat people are numb to it. Like they don't mind, it's AI generated designs, so it's sort of entertainment category. But still, there is a big need for control of this kind of content. You see, 2 weeks ago there was a picture of the Pentagon being in fire or being bombed, and that had an effect on the stock market. That was a fake picture shared by someone with 5 followers on Twitter, and that had an effect on stocks, millions of dollars. So there is a need, but I'm not sure who is responsible really. If it's the platforms, are obviously responsible, but I'm not sure who will be the voice, the decision maker that says, okay, we need a solution for this because this is a real problem and a real threat. It can be that it's going to be governments. It can be that it starts, within the EU and then it reaches the US, or the other way around. But somebody sooner or later will come up with at least a proposal to solve this problem.
Right. Well, I think it's going to be an ongoing issue. If we look at even the questions around the control or ownership of the content a user generates, or the information they give to a platform. It's, as you said, people are okay giving up that information because they're receiving, I guess, something in return, customized content, ads they want to see, so on and so forth. So it's really hard to argue to put something in place when a lot of people aren't really complaining about it. You know what I mean?
That's the other thing, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you see then are the real ethical concerns when it comes to AI that maybe people aren't really looking at right now?
It's hard to say because it's always somewhat personal and somewhat consensual. So people agree on that this is not ethical, this is ethical, this should not be done, this should be done like this or in other ways. And it was never my kind of expertise. But I think right now an issue that is waiting to be solved is actually using openly available data, Wikipedia, Google Images, get images to train AI algorithms, because you will need so much data, millions of pictures, millions of sentences, text to train your algorithms. And where do you get that? Where is it openly available? It's openly available on the internet, but you can look at it, you can copy it, but is it ethical to kind of train your models on it? So basically steal the work of other people to make your models better. And how do you prove that it was actually stolen to create and to copy that? So that's an ethical question. It's a legal question as well. So that's something that I think is not being talked about enough. It's mostly about AI is going to take your job and and stuff like that, and AI is going to take over the world, and you're going to be Terminator 2. And but I think it's more about copyright and property. And if you put something on the internet, is that still yours, and is it free to take for other people to train their models on? So there is I think that's another problem waiting to be solved.
Right. Oh, I guess that was one of the basics of the internet regulations, in the sense that once you post it out there in a public domain, right, it's kind of like free for anyone to use, unless you've taken the step to actually copyright it. Let's say it was content, and if you haven't done that, then anyone's usually okay to use it, right? More or less. Just like books. I mean, if you plagiarize something, you'll know because it's been copyrighted. The book has been copyrighted.
Yeah, I mean, if so, sort of, it's your responsibility. If you put it out there, then it's out there. What can you do about it? But yeah, it's an interesting question. It's a complicated question, because I can put music on the internet that's not mine. I just bought the CD, and who is the owner of that now? Is that okay to download from Pirate Bay? It's always this question. Is it okay to steal music? How do you justify that, and how do you regulate it? So it's always a tough question.
Well, coming to then the information that's required to train your algorithm, I believe there should be a lot of businesses that will be set up mainly to store data and make it licensed or accessible for other people to use. I mean, other than all the information that's out there in public, there's a lot of private information that has not been, shared. How do companies get access to this data? Because it's like you mentioned, it requires a lot. So what do companies do? What's the solution?
Yeah, that's one thing that we are working on, and that's what I call like a knowledge base. So it's more or less like a private language model that's based on your data, based on your documents. And yeah, that's an interesting question, because if you upload something on GPT, on OpenAI right now, then it's there. It's they are free to train their model on that. So basically, it's in their database. So it's really another question of privacy, question of private documents. And if I'm a business and I upload private information just to train my own models, or just to be able to communicate with the documents, essentially sort of chat to PDF fashion, then who is the who can use that file, who can use that data? So that's a problem that we also were thinking about. How do we approach that? And yeah, there's no better way than going to a third-party service and then safely store the data there and use a private language model that is based on some open source solution. So that's the best way to get around it, because companies will they will be using ChatGPT, they will be using language models to enhance their businesses. But yeah, there's the question of data, and how do you train privately on your own data?
Right. So do you believe that if everyone's working off of public information at this point, let's say on ChatGPT, and yes, it's still learning as people are entering questions or information, but everyone's accessing the same, you can say, knowledge base. So don't you believe that kind of restricts creativity? Like everyone's actually pulling from the same stuff.
Yeah. I think you have to be very smart. That's why I think prompting will be an interesting new kind of industry and expertise that you kind of, a skill set build around how do you communicate with AI? And it's a very interesting question. How do you explain it to the AI that it does a good job actually providing you with text, with information, with images? And yeah, you're right. I've obviously, if you ask something from ChatGPT, you will get this kind of response back. That's kind of a recurring response. There were a lot of memes and posts about how it's kind of apologizing for its mistakes, or how it's making up things kind of delusionally. And that's very interesting, if it's actually a good feature or is it a bad feature. Because if it's making up things, obviously that's going to be fake news and changing history and the perception of people. But on the other hand, you can see how weak AI still is. Like, it's not something to be scared of, and I cannot justify people saying AI will take your job and AI is going to take over the world. So and then obviously it's a very, very, very nice marketing catch for Microsoft and OpenAI say, like, we are not releasing GPT-5 because it's so dangerous, and imagine if GPT-4 is like this, GPT-10 is going to be like this. And okay, it's incremental. It's really, I don't see a huge leap. Obviously between GPT-1 and GPT-5 there will be huge improvement, but it's still it's not going to be billions of data points if it was 100 million before. So that comes back to the question of training data again, and people accessing ChatGPT and talking to it, and that's training the algorithm. Anyways, that was a very, very interesting marketing move from OpenAI and Microsoft, and just looking at it, how it got hundreds of millions of users, and as we have heard in the news just now, is the user number is actually decreasing by 10% or something like that, which is not horrible. Yes. But it is showing that it is getting smaller and smaller, and it's finding the right users and the right use cases. I hopefully that's the sign of it. And the people that were just playing with it, they kind of finished it and figured out that, okay, I cannot use this on a daily basis, but it's still 100 million users. There is a use case, I believe, that is coming out of it, and more companies are building on top of it. So it's going to be some very, very strong use cases, and it will be very useful for some people. It's going to be still useful for the rest, but I think everybody can benefit from it in the end. So that's good.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Okay. Yes. Well, I guess to your point, you're basically saying it's like, you can reduce a lot of responsibilities or tasks that are done by certain people, not necessarily take over someone's complete job. And I always feel that it's not a bad thing, right? We're humans that should be able to expand and grow. So we should, conserve or actually focus our energies on higher computing needs, right? Rather than creating like repetitive tasks, right? So I think that's
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, if you think back, probably our parents and their parents, they were thinking, in 2000 we will have we don't have to work, or we have to work from 12 until 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and we can have weekend all week long. But that didn't happen. People are still working as much as 50 years ago, even more, just doing repetitive tasks, sending proposals, writing sales letters. That can be replaced with this kind of tool. So I think that's a very good question. Like, when will AI have that effect of increasing efficiency? And when companies will say, you don't have to work on Friday and Monday. You can just, take from Tuesday until Thursday, the AI is going to work instead of you on Fridays. So when is that kind of step coming in business? And when businesses, I really believe in that, efficiency is not necessarily, increasing. If you work 8 hours and you work plus 1 hour, that's not going to be, a relative increase to how much you have worked. So yeah, overall, I believe in that AI will actually get us to that point that we only have to work 4 days a week. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, the other side of it also is maybe if some of these jobs, repetitive tasks, are removed, and people do shift on their focus on working on things that maybe matter a little bit more. I was listening to this one podcast. Someone was mentioning that if the new generation, if they all just focused on being scientists and doctors, that we'd solve like 80-90% of the world's problems in like a few years.
Easy. Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
right.
It's an interesting point, but also to that, to be a little bit negative, probably if we did not have smartphones, we would also be more efficient in work. And if we didn't have TikTok and we didn't have Netflix and Instagram Reels and stuff like that, maybe we would be solving more problems. But then it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. The more time you spend on Instagram, the less time you have to think about the world's problems. And yeah, it's human vanity. You like, these companies made it so that you get addicted to it. So I mean, you can only blame them. But yeah, that comes back to a question of efficiency. And then if I have something negative again to say to that, AI is going to get better and better and better, and you will get a lot more dopamine from these tools by just the algorithm adjusting what you see on your feed, and then AI generated content being personalized just for you. So you're not just going to see cat videos, but you're going to see cat videos that were generated for you personally, and you get 100% more dopamine out of that. So you will get even more of an addiction to content, sort of. So that's also scary.
So that's along the lines of the ethics things I asked you, right? I said, ethically, you're creating dopamine addicts, right? That's basically what you're saying.
And then that's the result. That's the result. And you want to get their attention, and you wanna sell more stuff and more ads to them. Which is it's a good business model because you get a lot of free stuff. You get free music in some, you get free videos on YouTube. But in the end, it's they say that you are the product. I don't know if you are the product, but you are definitely being used for something. You're being, you're being led by these companies to buy something that you don't want, or, you get so much this, ads every day in front of us. Just if we go to a website, if we read the news, if we are walking on the street as well, that it's kind of scary once you start thinking about it. And once you can really personalize this sort of content, personalize everything for the person, not just how they are reached on Instagram. If you're interested if you have cats, then you will get cat food ads. But really, actually, in generated content, you can imagine you don't have to stop the YouTube video, because the ad will be generated into the video. You will not even notice, but you will. I don't know. I don't even know how to imagine. It's very utopist, but I believe that's going to be the future of generated content. That first, personalization will come, and you will just get more addicted to content, but you also get more addictive ads, or more efficient, if you want to say it nicely, more efficient advertising.
Yeah, you can compare it to like Web 2, where you're trying to reduce the number of clicks per user. Now you're trying to reduce the number of swipes, right? So everything is customized for you. You kind of don't need to swipe. You're kind of fixed on the screen and continue watching. Yeah. It's crazy. All right.
All the videos with just automatically swipe when it says watch till the end, or you won't believe what happens in the end. Those are the lowest levels of trying to keep the attention of the user. And you just know you have to watch it till the end. If it's boring in the beginning, you kind of have an expectation that the end is going to be the exciting. I don't know, but that's how movies work. That's how any kind of story works. You always have the excitement in the end, just before the end. So it's we have to be, I think, a little bit careful on how maybe Meta and TikTok, they're gonna try to increase the view times with AI and AI generated content, because it's just gonna get really good really fast. It's not gonna be 10 years. It's gonna be within 5 years.
Okay. So you mentioned that there's not as much VC money being handed out as people are feeling or hearing, and there's a lot of noise that
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of noise that people are positioning their product with some AI tech that's helping to solve the problem. So that's one side of it. But whether or not these are getting funded, that's a different story. What do you see as in the next, let's say, 2 years? What are the players that or the emerging trends that will really kind of carve out the market and no longer be noise, but they're actually really doing something?
Yeah, right. First, I just want to give some more kind of explanation to that statement that the VC funds are not. It's not like a gold mine for VCs as much as it's a gold mine for starting an AI company, obviously. But VCs are looking for, first of all, a founding team, and obviously, looking at the idea is also important. But first and foremost, they are looking for founders. They are looking for experienced people that are 99% a team. So at least 2 people or 3 that have experience on the business side, on the tech side. And that's what they are investing in. The other thing that they're usually looking for is IP. So something that you built, something that's sort of it's even better if it's hard to replicate, if it's something that you can have also, personal IP because you have experience, you have skills. But if you have a technology that you build, that's real IP. That's what they, you can see their faces. Oh, you have something proprietary that you built. Then you have their attention. So if you look at the gold rush of AI startups, top 100 AI startups this week, that's the kind of post that you will see on LinkedIn and tech blogs. Those startups were either started by one person that kind of has some, it doesn't have to be even a good programmer, but have to have some experience in programming, taking 90% of the time taking API from ChatGPT and building something on top of that. That's going to be the case, I think, 2/3 of the time. So when a VC will look at that kind of AI startup, there's no team, there's no experience. It's not a serial entrepreneur. It's a programmer in the basement that has a hobby to build products, and it's not a team. He will not have experience to sell the product, to market the product, and also there's the IP. You connected 2 APIs and built a front end from a template. That's not something investable for a VC. Even if this person has 50K MRR, they're going to be skeptical, and they want to see the person being able to sell it on the long term and not just based on the hype. So yeah, that's the problem that I see with AI startups in general. So yeah, that's the bottom line. It's hard to invest in those startups. On what kind of start you want, specific startups or specific use cases that might be the most important, the most
use cases. Use cases would be great.
Let me think, because I'm always looking at the use cases. So even if you think about ChatGPT, like, it's cool. You can ask, it's a chatbot, but like, is it a customer service chatbot? Is it is it replacing Google? Is it an extra layer on Google, on top of Google or Bing? So it's really hard to say right now. So I just have gut feelings, and one of them is that this kind of conversational interaction will be driven by OpenAI, will be driven by what they build with large language models, because we just kind of reached that level that we have enough data, we have enough computing power, and we have enough technology and interest from people that this, large language models will become a technology essentially. So with that, I think the chatbots will see a new kind of uptake on how we communicate online. So more and more websites will deploy chatbots, and it's not going to be 2 people talking, but it's going to be you talking to a chatbot and actually not being able to decide if it's a chatbot or human. But that's actually gonna be useful if you have, obviously if you are, for example, flying and you have a delay, and you want to complain or you want to talk to a lawyer. Like, I think that's gonna be some really cool features where chatbots might be even better than people. For example, imagine like a financial advisor chatbot. That could be also very good because it doesn't have biases. It doesn't want to sell you something. It's actually giving you advice. So that's and specific advice to your situation. So that's also cool. And then to put that under one head, I think that's, kind of customer service, customer support, or user support kind of chatbots. I think they will be very intelligent in many levels. So there's a lot of space for building very cool startups, maybe not billion-dollar startups, but definitely valuable tools that will help communicate with people. So if you have just basic questions to your washing machine, or then you can ask a chatbot and it will tell you, okay, you press this button and press that button and it's going to work. Or if you have legal questions, you have financial questions, you have tech questions, if you writing code, for example, that's going to be very useful. And on the other level, we already mentioned personalization. There are many aspects of it that are not negative, but positive, obviously, where you will have maybe even personalized websites to you, or personalized e-commerce shops where you have a chatbot and an agent that's going to help you pick the best products for yourself. So that's also, I think, a big benefit. That's, I think, that's going to be the underlying technology. That's going to be the umbrella, I think, of how people will communicate online, essentially, with machines, with chatbots, let's call them. But I think it's even more than chatbots.
Okay. So where do you think a company fits in the value chain? You mentioned some of these founders struggling, and maybe they have a great idea, building it out. They're using third-party components. So what type of IP is really there? And I think sometimes that is the question. That's what technology has done for many industries. It has disintermediated all the middle guys, right? So now you've got an API that allows you to hook into or something, right? So you got the engine you set up. Let's say you do a chatbot on your website. Today, you're responsible for inputting all the questions and answers, right? And if a customer comes in and asks a question and it probably pops in, it could pop open with the wrong answers, but it'll never change, right? Because it doesn't learn, right? Unless the person behind the scenes recognizes that and updates it. So I guess where's the value then? Like you've got someone owning the knowledge base. If it's a private company, maybe they own the knowledge base. Then these days, how many tools do you really need to create a chatbot on the website? Like I can only imagine just have a few players and that's it. And that's what everyone will use. And then it'll become that type of world. Is the tech in itself isn't that amazing at all. It's actually the back end piece. It's where you get the data and how the algorithm works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, how do you see it? I mean, where's the real value in AI? Building it, like from a technical standpoint. I know maybe that's not your expertise, but how do you see it?
Yeah, that's a very complex question. I wish I had a straightforward answer. No, if I think about it, it will be the big companies that will be the main players. They will provide the language models. They will be ahead. And there are so many companies that wanna replicate OpenAI ChatGPT, and they got millions and millions and hundreds of millions in funding, and they are not even out with the demo yet. So I'm really struggling to see how fast these smaller companies, and they are not small companies, they have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, but it's OpenAI has been building this for a long time, and they will have this advantage that Microsoft can use to be the the one that takes most of the value from the market. But then it's the benefit will be obviously for us, for the end users, but then the real value will be captured by these companies. On a technological level, there will be a lot of smaller, bigger companies building on top of these tools, these APIs, as you said. For example, I think Intercom already is advertising itself as the best AI support. Yeah, I don't know. They already, it's also interesting to see how fast also bigger companies moved away from, for example, Meta, from the metaverse, and went into being, an AI company. It was really crazy to see how fast they could, switch all the companies and all the smaller and bigger companies switched to focus into this kind of, being an AI company or AI first company. And I think somebody did look through the financial statements from these companies from 2020, 21, 22, and maybe it had, AI mentioned twice. Now every company is coming out with something AI, something they are doing with AI. So I'm really not sure, who will come out in the end as the winner. Microsoft has a good position right now on really capturing the value and bringing in more, like millions and millions of users. Yeah, we'll see. I think we will see before the end of the year.
Okay. So I'm going to end this episode with the question that we're going to cover. Is the AI disruption real? Because we can go from all different angles, from it being hype, right? Because of what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like VCs, if you look at what else there was to invest in the market, the shift from blockchain and crypto was a mess through the FTX collapse last year. And all of a sudden everyone turns this way and they look at AI, right? There's that perspective. And there's then everyone else going into the industry saying they're positioned as AI. People talking about they're going to lose their jobs, and it'll happen faster than everyone realizes. And we just talked about it. AI has been around for more than 50 years. So is this AI disruption real? Like in the short term, is it real? And if so, how real is it? What are your final thoughts?
It is real, depending on what it will disrupt. Definitely disrupted my LinkedIn feed, but as I said many times, it really comes back to the question of the end user and the value that it is created for them, because they are the ones that will adapt it or decide not to use it. And that's a very good point, that with the hype really slowly dying around metaverse and very suddenly dying around crypto, it really timed this so that AI is really the driving factor and the driving word in financial reports, on the stock market, and in every big company's kind of new way of thinking about the industry and about technology. So that definitely had a larger effect than it. I think then it's kind of like it's reasonable to have, because it still has to find the use cases, and you cannot just go for the weekend and rename your company an AI first company on Monday. It has to be really, there has to be a reason behind it, and then it will be just an empty marketing term sooner or later, the more you use it. So if you're an AI startup, if you're an AI company, it doesn't really add anything, any differentiation to it. If there are millions of AI companies that are using AI to some extent, or just using it as a marketing term. So I'm really still waiting for the the final winners of the AI disruption, or the age of AI, whatever we want to call it. I think it's really timing. That was the key factor, that AI could become what it is, how we think about it. I can think back 1 year ago how we thought about it and how we think about it today. It's really top of mind. You can walk around the street and you will hear people talking about ChatGPT. It's really surprising for me, because we have been seeing how hard it is actually to develop good AI models, and we always developed it thinking about the user first. So now it turned things around, and you're thinking about AI as a solution for everything, and you're actually not asking about the problems, like what problems do users have, what problems do people have that can be fixed with AI technology, because in the end it is a tool, and it is not gonna solve nothing on its own, but you really have to think about the next layer on top of the AI technology that is serving the users. So yeah, I'm still waiting for the winning use cases. But as I said, I think we will see some interesting stuff before the end of the year. But definitely, this year is gonna be remembered for being the year of AI.
Okay. So in summary, I mean, AI is disrupting, or it is a disruptor, and it's a timing and based on the consumption of the businesses that are using it to solve a problem for the consumers. And like any other technology, it takes some time to actually validate the use cases, and over a period of time, we learn and iterate. That's what technology does. So yes, disruption is real, and I don't know. Maybe it's safe to say those people who are out there who are afraid to lose their jobs. I would say a lot of businesses actually aren't even prepared to even look at AI to implement in their business for some time. I think that's the reality. People might be excited about it. You might even have employees championing it, but to get it funded internally for changes, I think it's just the reality is it just takes time. So that concludes our episode. Thank you, Kristof, for joining today and sharing your perspectives.
Thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to hearing the episode.
Hey, so that concludes this episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I would like to thank all of you for listening to this episode, and I'd really appreciate it if you leave any type of comments that you'd like to share, because it helps to feedback on how I deliver these podcasts, and I definitely want to improve it to continue to add more value to the audience. Now, you can follow us on many of the popular podcast channels: Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Equally, I'm going to be uploading all of these episodes onto YouTube. So it's more than just audio, it's video. You can see everyone's faces. Look, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I'm always open to new ideas or looking for new guests. So if you know anyone in the space of Web3 that is an influencer or leader or someone who's really trying to shape what Web3 will be in the future, I'd love to hear from them. All right. So yeah, just comment below. You can DM me. I have all my information in the details underneath this podcast episode. So yeah, thank you for joining me today, and have a great one. See you in the next episode.